Look, this is interesting. You've got to take the £25 million. Of course, it is for all the protests. But if you have a democracy, you have to prepare for the fact that policing is part of it and making sure that people can protest and keeping people safe and allowing that to take place. You don't want a totalitarian state, and arguably that costs more anyway. That having been said, I do think that the protests that we allow, the rules need to change. I'm sick and tired of hearing that people can't get to work, can't get to hospital, can't get to, do whatever around their daily lives because people are protesting in a way that is disrupting them beyond what's reasonable. And I also think that maybe we need to think about, well, how do we organise protests so that they are more efficiently priced for us, the taxpayer, on the basis that what they're going to achieve. I mean, protest away. It's not going to change what's happening halfway across the world. I mean, OK, so you're upset. I get it. But, at the front door, it's spending a lot of money that we don't have. But there are people on health waiting lists.
But it may change the way that MPs... yes, OK, it won't change what's happening in Gaza, but it may change the way that our MPs are dealing with it. Because obviously we're seeing Labour MPs going against Keir Starmer and saying, because of their own constituents and their constituents' beliefs, they're going to side with the Gazans against Israel. And then maybe that means that when Starmer's in charge, he then actually calls for a ceasefire instead of just being weak and saying nothing about it properly. Every one of those protests, as I keep saying, is British. So presumably they've paid their taxes. So quoting and saying 25 million it's cost us, that's what we pay our taxes for. And it's our right to protest. Whether you agree with it or not, it's right to do the protest. When I went on the anti-Semitism march, that cost something like just under $500,000 for that one protest. But again, there shouldn't be a case of we can pick and choose what we can spend our taxes on for protests and what protests we can't. A protest is a protest.
To get back to the marches and the cost, this huge cost and the resources that are being drained, the abstraction and absence, they call it, of the workforce, I wonder if we actually need to look again at the police force, you're the expert, and look again at how they are policed. And policing crime, looking into shoplifting, which isn't happening, burglaries, domestic abuse, rape, knife crime, violence on the streets, all of that is actually quite a different job to policing these huge public events, which are now a regular weekly occurrence. There's a gymnastics thing that I take my toddler to on a Saturday. We can't do that now because of these marches, because of the way we try and go. Saturday after Saturday, I have been shouted at by, this is just an aside, I've been shouted at by police officers. You can't go that way. You can't even push your bike through with a 3-year-old on the back. Absolutely insane. But I wonder if we need a different model for those kind of, almost not riot police, but marching police, separate to the ones who need to be fighting crime on our streets, keeping our homes safe, looking into things like burglaries, looking into things like shoplifting.
Every weekend.
All of those things. People don't have any confidence in reporting crime.
Every weekend in this country, we have police drawn out of the communities to go and police football matches to stand outside the stadiums. People don't complain about that.
Actually,
there's certain areas you cannot walk through.
JJ, I was just going to make that exact point because Sir Mark Rowley said just the other day in a radio interview that he did that he thought it was time to charge Premier League, not the little football club, they don't need
charge them more money.
To charge them for the policing.
Yeah.
So perhaps we could harness both that thought and what Emma's saying and have some sort of special force that does those sorts of football games, protests.
Isn't there a point, though, when you would have to say, because I think we all, obviously, the right to protest and all the rest of it, we're not North Korea, even if you don't like the cut of the jib of whatever protest it is.
Yep. Free speech.
You have to, free speech, blah, 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 we all get that. However, if some of those protests said, right, we're going to do one every day now, what would we do then? There would have to be a point when somebody says, you know what, that can't work. In practical terms, we can't close a city.
We've been there with the sort of Just Stop Oil.
The Just Stop Oil merchants.
Exactly, that's another pressure on the police.
They were sort of giving it a go and trying to be, there is a point where you do have to make a balance between disruption and you have to also, I think, make a balance. I think we've seen a lot of criminality go completely unchecked, and Tower Bridge on Saturday was a classic. So if I stood on Tower Bridge right now with a firework in my hand and let it off, I'd be nicked within about 2.5 minutes. So quite how you get away with letting off 100 flares, stopping the bridge, closing a highway,
How
I have no idea.
Be a crime?
No idea. Not one crime there, really.
But do you think that one of the things which has perhaps sparked quite a lot of conversation is a Labour MP now sparking fury for saying that vulnerable MPs, i.e. those who have been targeted, those who have been targeted by these particular protests, should evacuate Parliament and work from home. So this is Harriet Harman, suggesting that colleagues return to their hybrid remote working model in a bid to protect their personal safety. I think to have this situation where you have MPs who are unable to do their work because they feel threatened, unable to express their own beliefs on behalf of what they think is best for their constituents because they feel threatened by a braying mob. That just plays into the conversations that we've been having from Lee Anderson and others, who may have been candid with it, but we also know that there is a radicalised, very organised area pushing people beyond what's reasonable in terms of their jobs. We need our MPs to be able to do what they need to do.